Good evening, folks, and welcome to Ridgecrest Talk. I'm Al Huey, along with my partner, Robert Eierman, and our special guest tonight is Pastor Lynn Wickham, pastor of
Thank you for coming in.
Cornerstone Bible Church here in Ridgecrest. Been pastoring now for
12 years.
12 years, and before that?
I was in Riverside for 6 years.
Okay, so got a couple weeks experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to have more hair back then, Al.
So did I.
You're winning.
I'm ready for the monastery, actually. So we're here to talk about the recent and still ongoing issue of the Indian casino here in town. Now, we had a vote last week from the council. It was a 4-1 vote.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Jim Sanders was the only no vote of the 5.
And I would like to point out that I'm not sure that his vote was a vote against the casino. Based upon what he said, his vote was against the passing the MSA at this point in time in the configuration that it was as a concept as opposed to a final written document.
But I will interject that we had him here not too long ago, and what was his objection then?
One was location. I forget what his other objection was. I'm sorry.
The moral aspect of it.
Yes, yes.
So he just found another way to say no, I guess. But I think it was more than just the language of the MSA, personally.
Okay.
But
I'm glad he voted no.
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, what did you think of the 4-1 vote of the council?
Yeah. Well, I was surprised at the margin. I was expecting that there'd be more in opposition to it, but I was really disappointed. I on the one hand, I appreciate how the city council did allow a lot of time for people from the community like myself to be able to
did
talk.
they allow a lot of time.
Yeah, so that, you know, my hat's off to them for that. But I really had the impression, and I'd like to be corrected if I'm wrong, but it sounded to me like they knew about the project since last July. And
That's absolutely true.
A lot of the people in the community, especially those who spoke against it, a lot of us were surprised that we had only recently heard that it was a possibility that there was going to be a casino built in Ridgecrest. So,
you mean to put it frankly, a lot of people feel like the council was trying to slip one through.
To put it really, really frankly.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what we are accustomed to doing.
Okay.
And we're not saying that that's your feeling.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I've heard that comment from a number of people.
Yeah, I had quite a strong reaction the first night.
Yeah.
And said so to the council. And I later talked to them outside of the council chambers. I kind of apologized for my what I had to say, but I still explained to them that, gosh, you sure could have done a better job in presenting this to the public, and particularly the way it was presented on the agenda that night.
Right.
Because it said they were going to vote.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people were reacting to.
Right.
And they have sworn that wasn't their intent. At least certainly the mayor said that wasn't their intent, and that it was just written up in the standard way that things get put on the agenda. And that could well be the case. But I think that a little bit more explanation on the council's part was in order.
Sure.
I know most of those people personally, and I don't think that was,
No, I don't
as I
either.
frankly phrased it earlier, I don't
But
think
they should
that was
have caught
their
it. They
intent.
want to be more transparent.
Yeah, but that's how it came across,
Right.
is, surprise.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, I wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for Mike Neal getting the word out that a casino was a possibility and it was going to be discussed by the city council. So it took Mike to dig and to figure that out, and then to get the word out to the community for us to even be there. So I commend the city council. They were They allowed a lot of time. Frankly, I was surprised. I didn't see the city council taking bathroom breaks. I don't know how they got through each night, because I had to take a bunch of bathroom breaks. So I commend them for allowing us to speak. But I had the impression, could be wrong, I had the impression that they had made up their minds, basically.
What irritated me
Before
the last night
hearings.
that they voted, the mayor said, okay, one last time, for anybody that has not had a chance to speak, please come forward. And I saw several in line and go, geez, Howie, you've spoken 2 or 3 times already. You know, sit down.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of the reason for that is a number of people consider what was done by the City Council a Brown Act violation. Now, whether they're right or they're wrong, I'm not here to say, but I tend to agree with them, but I'm also not an attorney. And if nothing else, they truly felt throttled in that situation. I'm not saying that they
Brown
didn't
Act
have to.
violation, how? What particular?
Well, you should allow everybody who wants to speak to speak.
They had.
No, I understand. And there was new things in that meeting, and to have, quote, used up your quota to speak, I don't think is appropriate. I think that they could have done it better. I didn't like the way they did it, but
I don't think it would have changed the outcome, to be honest.
no,
with
that's
you.
the thing, is it wouldn't have changed the outcome, and I think that a lot of people felt that there probably was communication that occurred, and
I'll bet you if the council would have allowed more people to speak, they'd still be speaking at the next council meeting.
and the
I mean,
next one, and
there
the
was
next
so
one,
much
and the next
passion
one.
in that room from both sides.
Oh, I understand.
You know?
That's true.
And it's going to continue. It doesn't
Oh, yeah,
matter that
it's
the
not
vote's
over yet.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to define this council for forevermore.
No doubt about
Okay.
that.
Well, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue the discussion with Pastor Lynn Wickham. Join us on the other side of the break, please.
And welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday evening edition. I'm Robert Eierman, along with my partner, Al Huey, and our special guest tonight is Mr. Lynn Wickham, Pastor.
That's okay.
And we're talking
Just
about...
don't call me Mrs.
Okay.
Or Miss.
And we're talking about the casino, the Indian casino, that was approved last week at the council meeting. The MSA was approved. I don't think the fight is over, but...
So, I know that you got up several times during the 5 weeks discussion that we had on this. What were your main objections to allowing this Indian casino here in Ridgecrest?
Right. Well, that's a good question. It's a fair question. Well, I noticed that several people, a whole bunch of people who were in favor of the casino kept on talking about morality and how people like me want to impose my system of morality on everyone else. And that's really absurd, because when it comes to law, when it comes to almost any kind of governmental question, there's always morality involved. It's not a question of whether or not there's morality involved. It's a question of, well, which morality is going to be imposed. Mm-hmm. So if there's an Indian casino built, that's a moral statement. The city and the tribe will be saying that this represents the city, this is a legitimate form of business, it's a legitimate activity for the government to be sponsoring and benefiting from. That is a moral statement.
So mainly your opposition was to the gambling aspect.
Yeah, and I'd like to explain that.
Okay. Because I have follow-up questions.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I'm not against a group of friends who are going to play poker or blackjack or whatever, and There's money involved. I'm not against penny poker, for example. I'm also not against it if somebody, for their entertainment, they've set aside money and some time, and rather than going to the movie and spending $15 like I did the other night for an hour and a half, their allocation for entertainment is to go play some cards, and when the time is up and the money is gone, they're gone. I'm not against that necessarily, but a casino is a different kettle of fish. A casino is meant to gain from other people's losses. A casino preys on people's weaknesses. There's documented evidence of that. There's a lot. It's not hard to find, actually, on the internet. But here's one report called "Why Casinos Matter" from the Institute for American Values, that was produced not by Christians or conservatives, but from people from across academia, from Berkeley, UC Davis, New York University, University of Illinois, University of Pennsylvania, and on and on and on and on and on.
Not known as conservative bastions.
Right, exactly. They're not typically the producers of Sunday school curriculum.
Correct.
But there's 31 propositions that they have from the health and social sciences, and one of those 31 propositions is that casinos depend on problem gamblers for their revenue base. And they say that the statistics show that that problem gamblers account for 40 to 60% of slot machine revenues, for example. And then they cite another study that found out that casual players comprise 70% of players, but they contribute only 4% of net gambling revenue. And
Amazing.
Their conclusion is that casinos depend for their revenue on problem gamblers. If it wasn't for problem gamblers, then casinos would go out of business. And you compare that, for example, with Anheuser-Busch. And certainly there are people who abuse alcohol and who abuse beer, but there's so many non-alcoholics who consume Anheuser-Busch's products that their bottom line is not dependent on alcoholics. Whereas with casinos, they're very much dependent for their bottom line on problem gamblers. Another thing that this study points out, and we've got runtime. America has been undergoing a real growth in the casino industry, the gambling industry, for about 40 years now. And so this group has looked at the data, and their conclusion is that casinos extract wealth from communities. Casinos typically weaken nearby businesses, and casinos typically hurt property values in host communities. So the main argument in favor of the casino that I heard from the proponents was that it would help Ridgecrest grow. In fact, that was one of their bumper stickers, let Ridgecrest grow.
Absolutely.
Well, I say that I'm for Ridgecrest growing, I'm for economic growth and all of these things, which is why I'm against the casino. The casino will actually accomplish the opposite. The way I like to think of it is that, especially in the case of an Indian casino who profits a sovereign nation, this casino is like this giant vacuum cleaner, and the other end is in China or some other sovereign nation. And the vacuum cleaner is going to suck wealth out of Ridgecrest. And oh, by the way, it's going to take 100+ people to run this big wealth-sucking vacuum cleaner and transfer that wealth to somebody else. And they're all excited about these people.
You're going to get jobs.
Yeah, but all in all, it is not producing wealth. It's not actually creating wealth. It's transferring wealth from our valley to another sovereign nation. So I'm against it for those reasons as well.
Well, we're going to have to take another break here in just a few seconds, but there are those, I'm not one, but who would argue that on the moral aspect, well, we already have casino here in town, and we already have bars.
Right.
So when we get back, we're going to talk to Pastor Lynn Wickham about the difference between the casino, the Indians, and the one that we already have. Join us. Welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk. Again, I'm Al Huey, along with a partner, Robert Eierman. We're here with Pastor Lynn Wickham, Cornerstone Bible Church here in town. He was one of the outspoken opponents to the Indian casino. And so before we went on break, I said I would ask you, so what is the big difference between the Indian casino and we have an establishment that has a big sign that says casino. It's a card room, essentially.
Okay.
And the fact that the Indian casino is going to be serving liquor, and we have one or two other liquor distributors here in town, you might argue. So what's...
And we have a state lottery, and we're part of Powerball, which is, 17 states, essentially run
Right.
by the government. So anyway, continue with your question.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm against the state lottery. One of the things that this study called Why Casinos Matter, 31 Evidence-Based Propositions from the Health and Social Sciences points out is that when the state gets involved in gambling, there's an inherent conflict of interest, especially when it comes to casinos. Because because now the state is supposed to protect the citizenry from the very enterprise that it is now profiting from. There's an inherent conflict of interest.
And they will profit from this Indian casino.
If it's a matter of people just, winning, I'd be willing for people to give me their money they would spend at the casino, and I'll give them 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Well,
but there's no excitement to that. They're looking.
Well, they have to wait a while to get it. That's all.
They're looking to put the 50 cents in and win $275.
Right. Well, the city of Ridgecrest would not be interested in this casino if they weren't getting some kind of money from it.
Correct.
And so now the city of Ridgecrest has a vested interest in the casino turning a profit. Now the city of Ridgecrest wants the casino to succeed.
Yes.
But in order for the casino to succeed, gamblers must lose. And most of the gambling that will be taking place is through the slot machines. There's 350 some odd slot machines.
349. They can't break the 350.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Limit. Yeah,
right.
it's
well, slot machines.
It's land that will become sovereign Indian land.
Yes, it will be controlled.
Never to be used by the city ever again.
Correct.
Right. Well,
and we have so much land here in Ridgecrest that we can just do that.
It's amazing.
Not
to
within
me.
the city limits, huh?
No, we don't.
We got lots of land, but it's not within the city limits.
We don't have it. BLM, the other county.
Right.
We are pretty much fenced in.
Yes.
Our growth is essentially going to be up, not out.
Right. Well,
we can bring Trump in. You can build another tower.
That's another story.
Yes, it is.
Well, modern slot machines are sophisticated computers, and they're programmed for people to lose. If they were not programmed for people to lose, casinos would not buy them. And this study group concludes that modern slot machines are carefully designed to ensure that the longer you play, the more you lose. Modern slot machines are highly addictive. They employ psychological means to entice players and to keep players going. They say modern slot machines are engineered to make players lose track of time and money. So here's this enterprise that is designed make people lose money, to facilitate their losing money, and now the local government has a vested interest in that, but the government's supposed to be protecting us, there's a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my reasons for being opposed to it. Biblically speaking, Romans chapter 13, that the purpose of government is to control and curtail and punish evil, whereas in the case of legalized gambling, the government has a vested interest to actually turn the other, turn the
So
away.
Romans 13 speaks against gambling?
Well, it speaks about the God-ordained purpose for government, whereas a casino violates that, and yet here's the government sponsoring it and actually getting
Because
a kickback.
it
So
from
it's
was-
not specific to gambling, but it's
Right.
specific
Because
to
it
the
was
concept
said
of-
by someone that there's nothing in the Bible that prohibits gambling.
Right. Well, I'd comment on that too. Now, keep in mind the qualifications I said earlier. I'm not necessarily against a group of friends, playing cards for money, but that can be problematic too. So biblically speaking, and I wouldn't expect this to carry the consciences of everyone in that meeting, but as a Christian and as a pastor, gambling actually does affect at least 3 of the 10 commandments. The 10th commandment says, "You shall not covet." And most people go into a casino, it's all about, I'm here to win money. And,
Of course.
there's the casino actually exploits covetousness in someone's heart. The Bible says, "You shall not steal." And the opposite of stealing in the Bible is actually working for your money, working for your food and your possessions. And gambling is an inherent short circuit of the God-ordained work ethic, which is what's behind the 8th commandment, "You shall not steal."
Mm-hmm.
And then also, and this particularly has to do with the addictive nature of gambling. Granted, not everyone who gambles is a gambling addict, but I believe that casinos in particular play on the fact that it is addictive, and any kind of addiction runs the risk of violating the 1st commandment, "You shall have no other gods before me."
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that even though the word gambling or casino is not in the 10 Commandments, it certainly relates to the 10 Commandments.
You could read between the lines very easily.
Where I can use my God-given intellect and
Right.
reach biblical conclusions.
What did you say, Joey? How much time? Okay. So, unfortunately, from your perspective, fortunately from my perspective, because I think I'm still a supporter, although you've made some excellent points, I must admit, you've made some fine points to persuade me not to be in favor of it. And although it has been passed, the MSA, so we're probably going to move forward. But like I said earlier, I don't think the fight's over, and we're out of time again.
We're out of time. We'll have more next week on the casino, so join us next week when we have another individual. Thanks.